All right, guys, Mechanic Phil here. Getting ready to assemble the pistons on the connecting rod bearings, piston rings, um, wrist pin, wrist pin retaining rings. I'm gonna go through the rod bearings, what piston rings I'm using, how I do things, some of the tools that are out there. Some of these you don't necessarily have to have, but it helps. We'll go with a few things. First off, I'm gonna go with, got new rod bearings. These are Glyco. They're American company, as far as I know, or I think Federal Mogul. Yeah, part of Federal Mogul, but these are made in Europe. This is the part number. They are standard. These are the piston rings I will be using. I'm going to be using the Molly. That right there. Oh, actually the 41926CP .020. That is the part number. Inside the box, you open it up, and on these flaps, it will show you which ring is what. They're down in there. I already have some pulled out. Also, with all your rings, they will include a sheet showing you the different types of rings, which one goes where, and so forth. So what I have here is one of the spare piston rod assemblies from the salvage motor engine that I pulled. Right here I have a set that is currently needing to go together. This has the factory DNJ, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, piston, replacement piston. This is a OEM replacement. This is 50 millimeters overbore, so this is a 83 millimeter piston. One of the things about this is right here is it is notched out for your piston squirters that I installed in the block previously. I will be removing these rings. This is a aluminum piston for the Volkswagens. I did not go forged. So there are many brands out there, but this is just what I'm going with. This has in the center on the top ring, this is a steel insert for the aluminum pistons to help it last a lot longer. And right here, I have the set of piston rings that I will be putting on. I'll be taking off the piston rings off of here and showing you how those go. Those are the wrist pin retaining rings. Some of the tools that I am using, just flat tip screwdriver, piston ring pliers, some needle nose pliers. Also, the connecting rod bolts that are right here and here, they are torque to yield bolts, so those are going to be getting replaced as well. That is the part number. So you will need 4 of those for a complete engine, and we will be getting down to it. First thing we're going to be doing, I'm going to spin you around, is, hopefully I'm getting this, I'm going to be removing the piston rings. You can do these a bunch of different ways. I will show you this one, and then I'm going to do everything else without. You can do what's called a spiraling. Basically get one edge of the piston ring, you'll kind of pry it up, and you just kind of twist it off. Just like so, and you'll get your piston ring off. There's a bunch of different tools out here. This one is made specifically for removing and installing piston rings, but you'll go where your notch is, take your pliers, and it just kind of spreads them out, makes things go a lot easier. You don't have to have it, but it's one of those things that it'll help you. Same thing with your oil control ring. You always start with installing and removing your oil control ring first. Now on this, it does have Volkswagen's has specific or their own type, I guess you could say, of oil rings. It's a rounded kind of spiral oil ring. But that is that. This is a 83 millimeter piston ring set. I'm just going with these mollies because I feel that they are better, far superior set. And we will go from there. All right, so installing, we will start with the actual, I guess you could say, scraper. But when you install these, you have this little gap. You want them just to butt, just like that. You don't want them going over and basically falling into another groove. So you definitely want them together. So how I'm going to do this is, for your top ring and your second compression ring, you want them 180 degrees out. What I'm trying to do is I am trying to get these so that they're spread out as best as possible, even though these will rotate on your piston while it's in the engine. But I'm trying to get it so it has maximum compression that you can get. Now what I'm doing, once again, I'm going with my oil. And I'm doing this because I want to use the same oil throughout this engine build. You don't want to use engine assembly lube on this. You just want to use the same stuff you're going to use. The engine assembly lube is a little too thick for this. So just get this a little lubrication on there, because you don't want to put it in there dry. I'm going to go ahead and grab the piston. On this, I'm going to spiral it on. It does not matter which direction they go on here, but like I said, you just want these two to butt up together. And they're actually painted two different colors. I don't know if it's how good you can see that, but they are not overlapped. Then we'll take your two oil scrapers and we will install them. These have already been verified in the engine bore for the correct tolerance. Like I said, you just want a little bit of oil. You don't want too crazy. It's gonna get oil on it when you're putting the motor together anyways. These do not matter which direction they go, just as long as you do not butt them together or intersect them. All right, we got one on there, but I already see on this it is, it was trying to not seat correctly. Let me see. And this is one thing, you want to take your time on it. I'll do everything as correct as you can do it. Come on, get in there. Let's see. Let's try this again. See. And you want to take your time because you do not want to mess this up. We'll try and pull this. We'll take a take two. Go ahead and pull this oil scraper ring off. Whoa. And then we'll try to put this one back on. All right, it is back on. They're not overlapped. That's the biggest thing you want to do is you just want to verify everything is installed correctly. And then we'll try the ring again. All right, that one is on there good. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and take the second one. Get a little oil on it. Not, like I said, not trying to use too much oil, but you do want it so that it is not dry. So when you go ahead and start this up for the first time, everything is good. All right, so there's that one. We'll go ahead and get this one on. Whoa. All right, so this set is good. It's not overlapped. Now we will take our second oil control ring. Just get some oil on it. All right, we'll grab our pliers. Now these have to go on there a certain way. On this one, it has a M for the molly for it to face up. There is also a little groove on the bottom that you have to take in consideration. Just squeeze this on, go down to hole number 2 channel. Then we will go ahead and get our top ring. Get some of this residual oil on here. This one also, it has a little dot. I don't know how well you can see that, but these have to go on a certain way. Once again, it is in the instructions or the specs for when you build a motor. Like I said, you want to do this 180 degrees out. You want to be careful with these. You don't want to stretch these out too much. So what I mean by 180 degrees, the first gap is over here. The second gap is over here. And then we'll actually, the way this is, we're actually going to turn this the opposite way. We're going to spin this 180 degrees out. Because basically what you're doing is you got a gap here, second ring gap here, and then third oil control ring gaps are spread out on the bottom. All right, now that that is done, we are going to go and install the wrist pin or the piston assembly on the rod. One thing about these rods are there is a hole from the factory in the center of these rods that will help oil flow up to the wrist pin to help it last a lot longer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, same thing, I'm going to lube up this wrist pin a little bit. Like I said, you don't want to use engine assembly lube because there is holes and everything on here, and you don't want that thicker assembly lube to go. So, like I said, I have the other old piston assembly on the rod already over here. I have this one, it's already been cleaned, and I'm using it for reference because this is only go on one way. If you notice, this one is already marked for piston number 4 when I pulled it out of the motor. This one, when I took it apart originally, it has, I used metal stamps, numbering stamps, to indicate as this as for piston number or cylinder number 1. This one is for cylinder number 4. We're not using it. Also, for that hole for your rod bearings, there is a hole for the upper bearing. The lower bearing does not have a hole, so that is to note, so it gets the proper lubrication. Now let's get this back to where I need it. So that way we can orientate this the proper way. The valve reliefs will be to the left, which are right here. We will go ahead and slide this in. Then we'll take our piston ring or our wrist pin. We'll slide it down through here. One side already has the piston or the wrist pin retaining ring on it. So that way it will make it a little easier for us. It can be a pain to install, so we will go ahead, get this, hopefully, hopefully we can get it in there. If I remember the specs for stock rods, it is, I believe, 19 millimeters. Come on. Come on. Come on. There we go. All right, so we got this all the way in. Now we are going to take our ring. There's a notch on here, and this can be fun. You can lose these, so it's going to be kind of hard to show. But we'll go ahead and we will hopefully get this in the groove, get it compressed, and in here. These can be a pain. They can be a chore. That one's... So I might get this on video. I might not. I have to do this later off camera. But I know the other side, it was a pain to get installed, and that was without the wrist pin in there. All right, I think for camera's sake, we will probably do this off camera. All right. Oh, nope. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do this off camera. Next thing, what we'll do, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of these gloves, is on your rod. I don't have a blue paper towel with me or a lint-free rag with me currently. So I'm gonna pull off the rod cap. Now these are split bearing caps, meaning they will only go on one way. Some of them, some manufacturers, they are machined. These are not. These are cracked rods. So it will only go on one way, just like so. It will not go on this way. just because of how it's been split. And if you look on here, I don't know how well I'm getting, but you will see it is basically been cracked. So it is split one way. It will only go on one way, and that's it. So what you want to do is I will end up wiping this down so there's no oil, no nothing, no lint. Get that as clean as I can. Then I will take the standard connecting rod bearing. I will fit it in the rod cap. There are no tangs or locating tangs on these, so you'll go in just like so. They will kind of self-center when you put it in the block. Like I said, this one does not have the hole in the bottom for lubrication. It will get lubricated via the crankshaft. Then we'll go ahead, take the top one, which actually, if you see on this, I have to clean it. You have the plastic gauge from where I was checking the clearances. I got to clean that off. That way it won't be there when we go fire this up. Then you'll go ahead and put it in the connecting rod once you clean it. Put it down in there. And you'll see where it rode before. Like I said, once you get it on the crankshaft and installed in the block, it'll only go on one way. Then you'll go ahead and line this back up, which this will not work. So we'll spin it around. That matches up. Just like so. Once again, new rod bolts. We'll torque them, we'll install it in the cylinder. We'll actually put some assembly lube on here when we actually install it in the block. And then we'll torque everything down. All right. I think I pretty much covered everything on this video that I can think of currently. If you have any questions, comments, concern, leave them down below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. Like I said, the hardest part of this part is getting these retaining rings reinstalled. You need to ensure that these are installed correctly, because if not, they come out, your engine will self-destruct very quickly, and you definitely don't want that. So I'll show you. This one has the wrist pin ring already in here. Hopefully you're getting that. This is also a coated skirt to help with lubrication, or not lubrication, less resistance when it's going up and down the cylinder. And like I said, when you go ahead and put this in the block, it will have a light coat of oil on it. Same thing for the piston rings. Like I said, they will all spin inside the block when you go ahead and while it's running. Once again, these are a 83 millimeter pistons. They're 50 millimeters overboard, or 0.050 overboard, not 50 millimeters. That'd be crazy. Once again, if you have any questions, comments, concern, leave them down below, and I will be back there, or I'll have another video installing these in the block. All right, thanks.